Chapter 5. 2 nights ago, Maggie had woken from a nightmare, a gory visual of a bullet exploding through Cam's head. She sat up and wrapped her arms around her waist, desperate to rid her body of a tortuous chill. Her body, slick with sweat, had shivered from the cold consuming her. Even her teeth chattered. 14 years ago, her uncle had killed himself, and her father still mourned the loss. She didn't know Jags or Cam well, but if she could spare another family the grief her family still suffered, she'd do almost anything. After her vivid nightmare, Maggie talked to Tilly and found out she could help Cam in 2 ways. For the first, she'd need her father's help. The second required seduction, an art she'd mastered long ago. Maggie entered the spacious home office. A rectangular maroon rug covered most of the walnut laminate flooring. On the wall behind the desk hung a portrait of their family dog, Jimmy, the sweetest cocker spaniel ever born on this planet. He died last year of old age. His custom-made doghouse remained by the back door under the overhang.
Daddy?
She circled the mahogany desk, her fingertips gliding along the dark wood. Uh-oh. He pushed from his desk and swiveled toward her. You only call me Daddy when you need something or you're in trouble. Which is it? She walked behind the distinguished gray-haired man and dropped into an oversized leather seat opposite her father.
Busted.
He rolled his chair back to the desk. Spit it out.
You know the old Copper Creek place?
The abandoned restaurant off Highway 105?
I need it rezoned.
Why?
The person who bought it can't get the permits needed for repairs because it's zoned as a historical building.
He palmed his forehead. I miss the days when all you asked for was money. Maggie rolled her eyes.
Can you do it or not?
He clasped his hands on top of the desk, a silver thick ring on each hand. 1 high school, 1 college. Tell me about this friend.
What do you want to know?
For starters, his name. She frowned.
Why do you assume my friend's a man?
He gave her a sidelong look.
Fine.
Maggie sighed.
It's a man.
Now that we've established the gender of said person, how about a name? He slid a narrow drawer open and retrieved a black marbled notebook and matching pen. He fanned the pages and tore out a clean sheet. Pen in hand, he said, Name.
Shit.
He scribbled shit and peered at her. Does shit have a last name?
That's the problem,
she groaned.
I forgot to ask Jags what his last name was.
Rocking back in the executive chair, he dropped the pen. Not exactly what a father likes to hear from his daughter. She didn't have the best reputation in town, and until now, hadn't realized her father knew it too. And what the heck is a Jags? He asked.
He's Cam's stepbrother, the one who needs Copper Creek rezoned.
And this Cam is... He arched his brows.
Just a friend.
His brows furrowed. Is he gay?
No.
She clucked her tongue.
I barely know him. He's a friend of a friend.
Let me get this straight. You want me to rezone said property for a man who is a friend of a friend?
Can you help or not?
Under one condition. Pointing a finger, he said, Get a job.
Not this again.
You can't live off me the rest of your life. You're 24. It's time to grow up. Do we have a deal or not? Glancing down, she noticed the leather band on her left green sandal had a tear. She'd have to go to the mall today and get a new pair. Hopefully they still carried this style.
Yeah, deal,
she said, her focus still on her sandal. I want proof that you've sent your resume out. That means if you get a letter from a company regarding your resume, good or bad, I want to see it.
Okay.
She looked up and absorbed the disappointment painted in her father's eyes.
So you'll help Cam?
He swiveled toward his monitor. Only because the place is an eyesore and I'd like to see it restored.
Maggie skipped around the desk from behind and hugged him. Thank you, Daddy, thank you.
I'm not making any promises. His words blurred against her arm.
One more thing.
He swiveled toward her. How much?
1,000 should do it.
He turned back to his keyboard. I'll have it wired this afternoon. She kissed him on the cheek and quietly stepped toward the hallway. Pausing in the threshold, she said,
You're the best.
He waved her on. Yeah, don't get all mushy on me. She hid a smile.
Wouldn't dream of it.
From the portable dispenser, Rain poured himself a cup of water and sat in the same seat as yesterday. The same people filled the room. Jewel wasn't late, but was still one of the last to arrive. Her red short-sleeved sweater cut low across her chest. Her black skirt stopped just above her knees and hugged her round ass. Brisket that had probably been boiled in grease, mushy potato salad, wilted coleslaw, and stringy green beans were brought in for lunch. Decadent chocolate cake smothered in whipped chocolate frosting was offered for dessert. Rain waited for everyone to pass through the line before he approached the long table. At the end of the day, he rushed to his car. Gripping the wheel, his knuckles white, he waited. When Jewel exited the building, he started the engine. As she drove from the parking lot, he shifted to drive. My sweet, let's go home. Cam stood in the corner of the dark living room, hiding in the shadows. Jags burst through the front door. Hey, Gramps. His almond carpenter pants hung loose. Damn. Cam silently vowed to put some weight on that boy. On the front of Jags' shirt, a large eye winked, and above was written, I'm not wearing any undies. A silver loop earring dangled in one ear, and a silver stud in the other. Jags kissed Gramps on the top of his head. Where's Cam? Who's Cam? Strings of gray, resembling guitar strings, crossed over Gramps' head. The miserable SOB who makes you the to-die-for smoothies. Oh, Cam. Gramps frowned. Who are you? He kissed the top of Gramps' head again. Someone who loves you. Jags! Gramps. They hugged. Did you bring me any cigarettes? You don't smoke. I don't? No, but you've been smoking, haven't you? Gramps sighed. What gave me away? I can smell it in ocean away. Who's getting them for you? I don't remember. Cam stepped from the shadows and walked toward the kitchen. I need to talk to you, Jag said. Cam groaned. I know, Jag said. I used the 4-letter word you hate so much. Cam leaned against the counter, a bottle of beer in his hand. It's only 12:15, so you're not here to go out drinking. You must have had another vision. I'm not interested. I don't care if you saw the President of the United States being eaten alive by giant beetles. He took an angry swig of his beer. The first time I touched Maggie, I had a vision of you and her at Critters. You had a man pinned to the wall, and you were pissed as hell. You hardly ever tell me about your visions. Why now? I also saw Maggie hiking with a little girl. They get hurt real bad. I want you to take her hiking and teach her the basics. Cam took another swig. What for? The future can't be changed. You said so yourself. There's more to this than you know. Just trust me. Why don't you take her hiking? Because I don't think Lori would appreciate it, Jag said. You've been dating for a week. Give me a break. His brother dated a lot of women, but never got serious with any of them. As to why, Cam had no clue. Jags was sensitive and kind, and Cam was sure he'd make some woman very happy. Why hadn't Jags let himself get close to any of the women he dated? At least he wasn't like his brother AJ, who would donate a kidney if it meant he'd get laid. This screams setup, Cam said.
She did help you.
Help me? A slow smile formed on Jags's face. Any news on the rezoning quest? My lawyer called yesterday. My petition finally went through. Cam smirked. But something tells me you already knew that. Jags opened the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. He plunked down at the table, popped the cap, and sipped his beer. Maggie's father is Mayor Stewart. I told her about my vision and that if she'd talk to her father on your behalf, you'd teach her to hike. A burst of heat swept over Cam's body. Sweat bubbled on his forehead. His hands trembled. He forced back the rage and growled. Why did you do that when you know I can't leave Gramps alone? Jags popped from his chair and leaned against the counter beside Cam. Shoving an elbow into Cam's side, he said, Take Maggie hiking. A couple of days doing something you love to do anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Do I really have to answer that? What about my waking nightmares? Separate tents. Gramps, AJ, Dad, and he were pawns Jags used to contort life to his musings. Cam would die for Jags without a second's pause, but his tireless pursuit to mold Cam's life was positively fucking frustrating. Listen, Jags said, write down everything I need to know about Gramps. I promise I'll follow your instructions to the letter. If it'll make you feel better, I'll ask Dad to help out. Cam couldn't remember the last time he hadn't succumbed to Jags's whims. For whatever reason, he just couldn't say no to him. But he took comfort in knowing most people had the same affliction with his unwavering tactics. I don't want you bothering Dad. Cam's knuckles curved under his chin. I'll think about it. Okay. That's code for I'll come back to haunt you if you don't do it. Save us both the time and just do it. Jags opened a drawer, fished out a pen, and wrote on Cam's forearm. That's her cell number. Cam turned. With his hands braced on either side of the stainless steel sink, he hung his head. I hate you. He spoke the words even and slow. I love you. Jags clapped Cam on the back. Brothers. Cam groaned. Fuck off. After work, Jags drove to Conroe's Flowers and More. Approaching the counter, he stretched out his hand. Good afternoon, Charlie. The elderly man rocked back on his heels. He shook Jags's hand. Yellowed, crooked teeth showcased a genuine smile. Mr. Damn it, call me Jags. Jags, I've your order right here. Charlie pulled a bouquet of flowers from under the counter. 7 black and 7 white roses. Sure, appreciate it. Jags took the flowers. Charge it to my account. Charlie waved. See you next Tuesday. Jags set the roses across his lap. He shifted to drive and drove to Oak Creek Cemetery. Upon arriving, he climbed out of the truck and strolled through the sea of headstones. When he found Keith Hammond's grave, he knelt on one knee and bowed his head. I beg your forgiveness. I will carry the injustice until my heart stops beating. After laying the fresh roses down, he grabbed the wilted flowers he'd left last Tuesday, stood, and walked to the wood's edge. He came upon a shallow hole. Dropping to his knees, he pulled a lighter from his pocket and lit the wilted flowers on fire. I beg your forgiveness. I will carry the injustice until my heart stops beating. The ashes grew cold before he climbed to his feet and strode back to his truck. He folded his arms over his head and leaned against the driver's door, his forehead pressed against his forearm. God help me. Cam emptied the dryer, folded the clothes, and put them away. After playing poker all afternoon with Gramps, He made a peanut butter and banana sandwich and set it on his tray stand. Cam's cell rang. Yup.
Cam?
Yup. Who's this?
Maggie. We met last weekend. You remember? The day you tried to shoot your head off?
He scowled at the phone and brought it back to his ear. How the hell did you get this number?
Jags. He said he had a vision of me getting hurt and I should learn to hike and that you would teach me.
Cam rolled his head and cracked his neck. His stomach churned. Heat coursed through his body. Pain drummed behind his eyes, giving him the mother of all migraines. Jags was mistaken. Cam grabbed a bottle of beer from the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. Hello?
I could have those permits revoked.
His hands, damp with perspiration, shook as he popped the cap. You bit.
Don't say it.
Cam chugged his beer as he crossed the room and sank onto the sofa. It's not that I don't appreciate what you did. I don't know what Jags told you, but I'm not an expert hiker. You should hire somebody who is, and I can't leave my grandfather alone.
You had no problem leaving him alone last weekend. And that's not the only reason I want you to take me hiking. I thought maybe we could be friends.
For the first time in a long while, Cam considered the possibility death might not be the only option. Running his restaurant would be distracting and a good avenue to vent some of his unwarranted and unreasonable anger. But two obstacles stood in his path. Finding time in between caring for Gramps and a hot, saucy redhead who wanted to be friends. Would she really revoke the permits if he didn't take her hiking? He threw an arm over his eyes. Want to go hiking?
This weekend good for you?
Cam dragged his hand through his hair. 60% chance of rain this weekend.
I have tennis every weekend. I already cleared my schedule.
He covered his mouth with his fist. How many miles were you thinking?
I don't know. Something we could do in 2 days. Start Friday, get back Sunday.
Have you ever been on an overnight hike?
No.
The only restroom for miles is a hole in the ground. Cam waited. He waited some more. Hello?
I'm okay with that.
Do you have hiking boots?
No.
Buy some. Today. Wear them as much as possible for the next 3 days. Sleep with them on. If you get a blister halfway through, I'm not carrying your ass the rest of the way. I will leave you wherever you drop.
Are you always this charming, or am I special?
I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm not friend material. I'm doing this as a thanks for helping me, and because I don't want to see you get hurt while hiking, but that's as far as this goes. We will never be friends.
Sure, BFF.
Separate tents.
Got it.
Come Sunday, we're even. I owe you nothing. I'm paid in full.
What time on Friday?
Noon. What do you have for supplies?
A sleeping bag. I could probably borrow a tent.
Cam sighed. Get a pen and paper. I'll wait.